The time is 2:02, and we're now back on the record.
Did it get hot in here?
It's a little warm.
Feels good.
Good afternoon again, Mr. Cavanaugh. I'm marking Plaintiff's Exhibit 22. This is a document labeled US 9562. The first in time email in the chain is an email from Justin Fox to Michael McDonald and Adam Wolfson, dated April 2nd, 2025 at 12:23 a.m. So just after midnight, you're copied. And Fox says, Mike Adam will plan to meet at the office at 2 p.m. if that works for you. Please be prepared with your team on the core, capable, and mission-aligned folks needed to execute on your renewed direction prioritizing America First grants. Given we're canceling many of the small, wasteful grants, our sense is this will be a tight group which we can walk through. Do you recall receiving this email?
No.
Do you recall a meeting on April 2nd along the lines that Mr. Fox?
I don't believe I was present in that meeting.
Do you recall talking with Mr. Fox about this meeting?
I don't, actually.
You don't recall if you and Fox had talked about this previously?
Again, I had many other agencies at this point in my time at DOGE. Justin was running point at this time, and I knew where NEH stood, which was we were very close to executing on the final plan of grants, contracts, and personnel, but I wasn't present at this point. It was close enough in terms of the final version that I didn't need to be as actively involved at this point.
He references a renewed direction prioritizing America First grants. Is that something that you had discussed previously?
Yes, in the same context as keeping the America 250 related grants in the Garden of Heroes. It was in that same vein of grants that we were going to keep.
What does America First grants mean?
If you show me some examples of grants that we kept, I can identify what they would be.
I think one of the prior emails talked about like a Papers of George Washington. Would that be an example of an America
Yes.
First? Why?
Because the Papers of George Washington are a foundational document of the country. So we felt that was important to keep, not cut, compared to something like, we can go through some of the other grants that we decided to terminate.
Yeah, and we can look at examples, but what's your understanding generally of what America First means?
In this context, I really don't, I'm not sure I have a great answer for you. I don't know why Justin phrased it this way.
Do you have any understanding of the term America First?
In a foreign policy context, yes, not related to NEH.
What's it mean in the foreign policy context?
It means prioritizing the well-being of our country before other countries.
And is that a term that you used in discussions with McDonald and Wolfson at any point?
No.
But this was a separate category, a different category from the America 250 and Garden of Heroes grants, right?
I actually don't believe so. I think Justin, frankly, was using it as a synonym, or basically a synonym for those other two categories of grants, and phrased it this way for some reason. I don't know. This wasn't a common term we used among DOGE.
Why do you think that?
He may have just been typing quickly. I honestly don't know.
But why do you think that it was the same as those other two categories as opposed to?
Because I knew what the priorities were with respect to which grants at NEH we should keep, and reading his language here, I'm guessing that he was referencing those other two categories. You'll have to ask Justin.
And you said you weren't at this meeting on April 2nd. You didn't discuss it with Fox beforehand. You didn't discuss it with him afterward?
I think I'm sure, again, like he would meet with NEH at their office, come back to GSA, and I would casually ask for a status update on where the cancellation plan stood. And he would provide them to me basically every time there was a meaningful update.
Can we put on the screen US 61429? Why were they kept?
In our judgment and the judgment of Mike and Adam, these were, I would say, politically neutral, not wasteful grants that we viewed were important enough not to keep. So it was a judgment call among the four of us, and then ultimately Mike and Adam signed off on it. But we felt like these were both A, within the administration's priorities, B, fell in line with the quote-unquote America First label that Justin used in his email, and didn't relate to DEI.
Any notes or working papers that you have or that you know Mr. Fox has reflecting that judgment?
No.
Okay. All right, we can take this down. Mark, plaintiff's 25. This is AR 91. This is a sample termination notice, right?
Yes.
It was sent on April 2nd at 11:35 p.m.
Yes.
And you can't tell from this document, but I'll represent to you that it was sent from a grant notifications at neh.onmicrosoft.com account. Does that sound right?
I actually don't remember the email that was sent, but I'll assume that this is true, yeah.
Who sent these termination notices?
I believe it was an employee of NEH, but I actually don't recall.
You didn't send them.
I did not send them personally, no.
It's possible Justin Fox sent them.
Justin, to my knowledge, did not send them.
You think it might have been an NEH employee, but you don't know who?
That's correct. I don't know exactly who clicked send. It would have been with the authority of Mike and Adam, obviously, because we were at this stage, but I don't recall the exact person that clicked the send button.
Okay. One sec. After these termination notices were sent, did you discuss the sending of the emails with Fox or anyone else?
Probably, I don't recall the exact conversation. Justin probably came to me at some point at GSA saying, just an FYI, NEH team sent out the termination notices today, but that would have been the extent of the conversation.
And you said he probably would have said that. I mean, you're saying you remember something like that.
I got an update at some point that the NEH grants did end up getting terminated, but I don't recall the exact conversation.
Did you talk with McDonald or Wolfson or Fox just before these termination notices went out about the fact that they were going out soon?
I didn't personally. Justin probably spoke to Mike. That was the main feedback loop at this stage in the process, was Mike and Justin.
And how do you know that Fox didn't send these out?
I don't know, but my sense is that it would have been an NEH employee because Mike and Adam were both intimately involved in this with their IT team. I could be wrong. I don't believe it was Justin, though.
Okay. Would it have been unusual if a DOGE employee sent out the termination notices as opposed to someone from the agency?
It wouldn't have been unusual. In certain cases with other agencies, one of our engineers would help the leadership of the agency facilitate a mass send of the email terminations. But in this case, I don't believe that's what happened. And that was at the request of the agency head for efficiency. Because if you're canceling, for example, 500 grants, it would be inefficient for the agency head to do that manually one by one.
Did you, can you provide an example of that where you did that at another agency?
I believe at the Inter-American Foundation,
The what?
Inter-American Foundation, Ethan Choutran ran a mass send script on behalf of the IAF team, just to make it more efficient for them. But it was at their request.
So in that instance, did he actually like press send on the emails for that agency?
I believe so.
Okay. Any other examples?
Not to my knowledge.
Generally speaking, someone from the agency would do it, was your understanding?
Yes, or we would help them create the mass mail merge that would ultimately get sent out, but they were the ones clicking send.
And was it important to you that someone from the agency clicked send?
It was important to us that the head of the agency signed off on the plan that was being effectuated. That was a requirement. In terms of procedurally clicking the send button, it wasn't explicitly as important as making sure that the leadership team was just aligned on what the plan was.
You said it was a requirement that the agency team sign off, the agency leadership team sign off. Is that reflected anywhere in writing?
I don't believe so. It's not in writing, but it was a broadly understood DOGE principle that was discussed during all hands meetings.
Who discussed that at these meetings?
Steve Davis, mostly. Again, the view of our role was we were supposed to be a supporting role to the agency heads. So we were pushing them to move in a direction, but ultimately it was their decision to sign off on the plans.
So then why was it important to have someone from the agency click send on the termination notices in the ordinary course?
Objection.
Why was or why wasn't
Why
it?
was it important?
It wasn't as important, is what I'm saying. It was not as important. Again, we were facilitating emails in the case of IAF to help send 500 grant terminations using an IAF email account. We were onboarded to the agency as an agency detailee, an employee basically. And so to the extent that the agency had wanted help in facilitating those mass cancellations, we would offer to do that for them because they weren't engineers or technical.
Okay. So in total, do you know how many grants were terminated at NEH approximately?
I don't. If you show me the data, I can confirm how many there were.
If I represented that as around 1,500 or about 1,500, does that sound about right?
Sounds right.
And all grants that were issued under the Biden administration minus a small set of America First grants that we looked at before. Is that right?
I don't recall.
Objection.
I don't recall.
You'd have to look at the...
I'd like to see the data.
Okay. And in deciding which grants to terminate, you looked at the project description, you said, was one of the things you looked at?
That was one data point among others.
And you considered like the point of view that the project was supporting?
It wasn't the point of view that the project was supporting. The two lenses initially were, one, does it violate an executive order that the White House signed?
The two what?
The two criteria that we use to evaluate whether a grant should be terminated primarily were, one, does the grant violate an existing executive order that the White House signed? In this case, the ones related to DEI, preferential treatment, etc. The other lens was, is this broadly a wasteful program in the context of the administration's priorities, which was a judgment call that we made in conjunction with the agency head.
And just to be clear, you didn't terminate the grants because the grantees, in your view, had violated the terms and conditions of the awards?
We didn't.
Right.
That's correct. You can terminate a grant for convenience in the federal government.
That's your understanding?
Yes.
Based on conversations with individuals with U.S. DOGE service?
Yes.
So after the termination of grants on April 2nd, how much longer did you work on NEH?
At this point, I wasn't spending any significant time on NEH. Honestly, Justin was ensuring that all of the grant recipients received their termination notices, was assisting with the RIF plans and contract terminations. It was like an hour of my time a week at this point.
What were you spending most of your time on?
Other small agencies in the government.
Can you provide some examples?
The Institute of Museum and Library Services, AmeriCorps, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. 3.
Was there a sense in which NEH, your work on NEH was paired in connection with work at NEA or the Institute of Library Museum Services? Were you like working on those at the same time and applying the same methods at those 3 agencies, or no?
Objection.
The short answer is no. Another person on our team, Marshall Wood, was the lead for NEA. We worked on that agency completely separately from NEH. We didn't have a relationship with the head of NEA at the time. IMLS, I believe, was listed in an executive order. And Keith Sonderling was appointed acting chairman of IMLS, and so we had a close relationship with Keith, and so the circumstances of that agency were different as well.
So circumstances of that were?
Different from that of NEH. Each agency had its own unique situation and circumstance.
Was there a proposal at one point to merge NEH and NEA?
Not to my knowledge.
Go back to something briefly. That list we were looking at before of grants that were to be kept, and we went through some examples just to make sure I understand your testimony. If a grant related to DEI, it couldn't be on the keep list, right?
That's correct.
After NEH, what did you do in government?
After NEH, I continued my work as the leader of the small agencies team and proceeded to work on the 3 agencies I mentioned, but there were also others. I don't have the full list in front of me, but there were about a dozen.
Aside from your work with from the small agencies team, did you do anything else for DOGE?
At the end of my time at DOGE, I worked at the Department of Homeland Security on the immigration team with ICE for about a month, and that was it.
What did you do with ICE?
We were designing a voluntary departure program to encourage illegal immigrants to self-deport from the country.
Anything else besides that time at ICE?
No.
You left around August 2025, is that right?
Yes.
Why did you leave?
I was not enjoying the work on immigration, and I was ready to go start my next company.
Why were you not enjoying it?
I was not drawn to the immigration program personally. I didn't agree with all of it.
What didn't you agree with?
I found the small agencies work more fulfilling because I originally joined DOGE to help reduce the federal deficit, and immigration was not directly related to that, so I wasn't interested in it.
Did you feel like the ICE work was too aggressively getting people deported, or not aggressively enough?
Objection.
I didn't think it was aggressive enough, but at the same time, I didn't enjoy working on that project.
So why did you go there in the first place?
The small agencies work ultimately was winding down in around July because there was growing tension between Elon and the White House, and the desire to cut spending from the White House started to reduce for political reasons, I assume, and so I got transitioned to immigration after that.
Were you privy at all to those tensions between Elon and the White House about cutting spending?
Objection.
Can you be more specific?
Well, you referenced it vaguely, and it wasn't clear to me whether you had like firsthand knowledge of meetings or conversations about that issue, or whether you were just referring to things you read in the press.
I had firsthand knowledge of the tension between Elon and the president.
How so?
I was in a meeting with Elon, Steve Davis, Howard Lutnick, and David Sachs in the West Wing of the White House, where there was a discussion about the growing tension of not being interested in cutting spending as aggressively as we'd originally hoped.
And who communicated that from the White House perspective?
Objection.
I don't recall.
Someone communicated it,
Objection.
I don't recall, honestly, who said it. Might have been Eli.
but it was said. And did you say anything at that meeting?
No,
Why were you invited to that meeting?
because I was a senior official within DOGE.
You mentioned Elon Musk. Did you ever talk to Elon Musk about NEH?
No.
You weren't terminated from the government. You left on your own.
Yes.
You might have covered some of this earlier, but I want to make sure it's covered. So when you were working in the government, what email addresses did you use for work?
Would have been Nate, my GSA email. In many of the agencies, we were assigned an agency email address. In certain cases, we would use that. In others, we wouldn't. It would just be at the agency's discretion, whatever the agency had preferred.
And you said that you also used the special.co email at times.
In the case of forwarding a scorecard to Steve Davis for weekly reporting,
That was the only reason you used it?
I believe so, yes.
What other apps did you use to do government business? You already referenced Signal, correct?
Yes.
Anything else?
I don't believe so, no. It would have been Signal, Gmail, and GSA's Google Workspace environment.
What about just normal iPhone messaging?
No.
WhatsApp?
No.
Did you use Signal daily?
Not daily, but multiple times per week.
So you never texted with Fox about work?
No.
You would Signal with him though?
You either talk in person at GSA on Google Chat, which is GSA's approved internal workspace communication tool, or it would be on Signal. One of those three.
I'm going to show you a document subpoena that we issued to you in connection with this case. This will be Plaintiffs 24.
I think you're on at least 26.
Yeah, 26.
Plaintiffs 26, excuse me. Document subpoena we issued to you. Feel free to take a look. Have you seen this document before?
I believe I've seen the first page. I don't know if I've seen the latter pages. I don't recall, honestly.
So feel free to take your time and take a look. This was a document subpoena directing you to produce responsive documents by January 9th, and then pages 5 and 6 list the categories of documents we requested you to produce. Taking a look at those requests on pages 5 and 6, does that jog your memory as to whether you've seen this before?
No.
So I take it then you didn't. Did you search for documents responsive to the subpoena?
Yes, I did, but I don't recall these exact two paragraphs.
What did you do to search for documents responsive to the subpoena?
I searched my personal phone and personal computer, of which there was nothing to produce, and then let the U.S. Attorney know that I used my government devices for everything else related to this case.
Okay. But you couldn't get those signal messages because they had been
They're automatically deleted by
deleted.
Signal, so there's nothing to provide.
Have you had any conversations on Signal about this case since receiving this document subpoena?
No.
Did DOJ counsel instruct you to preserve documents responsive to this subpoena or otherwise relevant to this case?
Yes.
And when you said you searched for documents responsive to the subpoena, can you say a little bit more what you actually did? Did you run search terms in your email, or what exactly did you do?
I ran search terms in my email. I looked through my personal Google Drive. I looked on my phone for photos, videos, of which there were none. Text messages, there were none. And then on Signal, I knew that they were automatically deleted by Signal, so there was nothing to provide.
Do you remember what those search terms were that you used to search?
Probably DOGE, NEH, terms in that vein. I don't remember exactly.
And you understand you're under an obligation to preserve relevant documents in connection with this case while it's still pending?
Yes.
We've talked about a number of meetings today, I know, about where grant terminations at NEH were discussed. Were there any other meetings besides the ones that we've discussed today at this deposition that you recall having about grant terminations at NEH?
Not outside of the ones we've discussed. I mean, Justin and I would have been sitting together within GSA having not explicit meetings about NEH, but where NEH was a topic around the status of the terminations, the grants we were going to terminate, etc. But no other specific ones that are, in my view, worth mentioning that you don't already know about.
And of those meetings with Justin, those day-to-day meetings, do you recall any that we haven't talked about already where you talked about significant action items in terms of what you were going to do at NEH?
We knew that as a result of the fairly large amount of contract and grant terminations, that the corresponding personnel that would be required at NEH should also be reduced, and so we had conversations around the RIF plan, but that's really it.
And we've reviewed several documents, emails discussing grant terminations at NEH. Aside from the ones we've talked about today, do you recall any other significant ones where you were conveying your proposal or responding to questions from McDonald and Wolfson about the grant terminations?
No.
You mentioned earlier that you had a prep session with counsel for the United States yesterday. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did counsel for the United States advise you to say that the final decision whether to terminate grants was Michael McDonald's?
No.
Objection.
No.
What's the basis for the objection?
You're asking about our, the discussions that we had about his employment and his time in the government are privileged, and I don't think it's, well, first of all, I think what you're suggesting isn't appropriate, but you shouldn't be asking him about the content of discussions that we had about his time in the government.
And no.
Okay. Give me just 1 second. Okay, Mr. Cavanaugh, thank you very much for your time today. I'm done with my questions. My colleague from the Authors Guild might have a few questions. I will say we are keeping the deposition open for a couple reasons, one of which is there's a privilege dispute between the parties that you don't need to concern yourself with too much about whether we have all the non-privileged documents in our possession. The court has said that all depositions are going to remain open. until that privilege dispute is resolved, and that witnesses might need to become available again for further questioning, depending on the outcome of that. Just so you know, so we're waiting for that instruction from the court, but subject to that, I have no further questions. Thank you for your time, and I'll turn it over to my colleague. Maybe it makes sense to take a 5-minute break just to get set up.
I'm good. If you're good, let's just do it.
I think we can take a 5-minute break.
The time is 2:35, and I'm off the record.